Okay.
Good afternoon, everybody. This is Alex with Underground Noise. I'm doing my own podcast for YouTube, and I'm trying to get more subscribers. So if you guys are here, welcome Dallas Toler-Wade, formerly of Nile, now in Narcotic Wasteland. Welcome, Dallas. How you doing, man?
Doing great, man. Hanging in there.
Yeah, that's what's up. Figured I'd ask you some questions about yourself.
Okay.
I was going to ask you, who are some of your favorite musical influences?
Wide range, and that my influences are ever growing also. But early on, I was really into Black Sabbath, Rush, Uriah Heep, Deep Purple, stuff like that. Not so much on Zeppelin, just because Zeppelin got played on the radio so much. So I didn't dislike it, but I was more interested in things that I didn't hear all the time. So, but I've been revisiting some of that stuff lately. Been listening to a lot of like Rainbow, been listening to ZZ Top. But that's more of like the beginning, like the rock and roll Dallas, back from, the mid to late 80s. And then, started diving more into the heavy stuff, Metal Church, Metallica, Megadeth, Slayer, all the usual suspects. And then further on into death metal. Bolt Thrower is always a standout band for me. I wouldn't necessarily say influential, but inspiring. Immolation, Christian, Cannibal Corpse, some Morbid Angel stuff. They're not really my favorite, but they got a few tracks that I really dig. And there it is, man. That was kind of the journey. It was just looking for the next crazy guitar stuff, or just the next heavy thing. Things that give you goosebumps on your arms when you hear it, that kind of thing. So I was always really going it. Taking it back, a band that I forgot to mention that was a big influence on me, especially in my early bands, was Sanctuary. Actually, I really dug the hell out of Sanctuary.
That's really cool. If you could bring back any dead musician, who would it be and why?
That's another tough one. There's so many, and so many good ones. I would definitely bring back Laurel Dane, and let him continue with Sanctuary. Not that the guy they have now is not doing a bad job, but Laurel was a big growing up. Just even though I don't sing like that anymore, just his way he pronounces the words so clearly, and just the drive and the emotion behind everything that he did was very influential on me and inspiring. Yeah, I think it would be number one for me.
That's cool. I never got to see Nevermore live, but Laurel Dane's an excellent singer, that's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I've been jamming on his song called Brother quite a lot, actually. So I'm pretty hooked on
Oh
that
yeah.
song.
Yeah, that's a pretty cool one. That was part of his solo stuff. And I really dug. I'm not as familiar with that as obviously, Sanctuary and Evermore, but the stuff that I did here was really killer. Of course it was, that guy's he's one of my favorite singers ever.
Absolutely. I'm not sure if you remember when you were in Nile, you guys played in Rochester, New York at the Penny Arcade 15 years ago on Groundhog Day, which I happen to call Underground Hog Day. It was a pretty killer show back in 2006. I don't know if you remember that show or not.
Yeah, that was probably the last time we played Penny Arcade. The first time we played there was probably in 98 or 99, really early on. There was that amazing music store down the street. Some guitars or something like that. And yeah, we played the last time we played Penny Arcade. Actually, someone bumped into my microphone and I chipped a tooth.
Oh, Ouch.
It was one of them kind of nights.
So that was a little embarrassing, I take it.
No, I mean, nobody really knew it until other than me. Of course, I wasn't able to. I missed a few vocal lines or whatever, but oh man, I couldn't tell you how many times that's happened to me. Even before the Nile days, the crowd starts getting nuts, and next thing you know, oh, there goes my microphone. Lovely.
That can happen. I know what it's like being on stage. It's a lot of fun, and then next thing you know, you get a chipped tooth or something.
Yeah, yeah. There's been a couple of times where I've been smacked with that microphone and tasted blood in my mouth.
Ooh,
Oh, that's nice.
that's kind of brutal, man.
It's like, yeah. I mean, people get nuts. Shit happens.
Have you
You
always
know.
played guitar, or
I'm sorry.
have you always played guitar, or have you played with any instruments before that?
I actually started out on the drums when I was 9 years old, something like that. And I know it was a little earlier than that, maybe 8 years old. I know that I played all the time and practiced all the time. And one of my bragging things is as I played Tom Sawyer at my fourth grade talent show, and actually did a pretty good job of it from what I remember. And then I don't know. I was playing drums for about 4 years, I would say, before guitars were always around in my family. My grandfather played, my dad played, my cousins played, so they were always kind of around. And I knew how to tune one and do a couple of chords on it, but I didn't really screw with it until about 13 years old. And then I started getting more serious with it, and the more I played that, the less I played my drums, and it just kind of. And then I didn't do any other real drumming until what was it, 2006 maybe. I played on Lecherous Nocturne's album called Adoration of the Blade. And I'd gotten back into playing drums, or inspired to play drums again, because of getting to jam with guys like Derek Roddy and Tony Loreno and George Colias and all this. I was like, man, I want to learn how to blast, because I was more of a rock drummer, and I was very dusty at it, because I mean, it was like 10 years went by that I didn't play drums at all, but just being around these guys. So the last tour that we did in the United States for In Their Darkened Shrines, I took a little bit of the money I made off of that tour and bought myself a brand new Pearl drum set.
Awesome.
And that's the one that I still use. That's the one that we use. It got used on some Nile tours right when George joined the band, and actually it was used to record Annihilation of the Wicked. And I used it obviously on the Lecherous Nocturne album, and of course it gets used on the Narcotic tours. And I really want to set it up, and I've got room in here. I could totally set my drums up, but I'm just lazy, and I always end up just picking up the guitar. I'm like, I don't want to play the guitar instead.
Well, there's nothing wrong with a little bit of laziness, you know?
Yeah, I guess. Things, most of things have been kind of locked down over the past year. I was deemed essential, and so my life didn't really change that much. I, just to and from work, and came home and practiced and worked on music, and hung out with a few friends every now and then, had a couple of weeks, and you know what I mean? It hasn't really changed me that much, but the whole not being able to play a show thing is starting to bother me. We have some shows coming up, so I'm happy about that.
That is cool. I'm sure you're looking forward to that. One thing I would be afraid of would be basically, how would they sanitize the microphones unless you bring your own?
Yeah, if you're smart, you bring your own anyways. And my microphones get pretty cruddy pretty quick. I've actually just completely blown out a SM58 Shure microphone by just walking up to it and belting into it, and it just pops.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I've done that a couple of times. They're pretty resilient. But one of the things you can do too, just for your own sanitary reasons, is you can screw the top off of it and let it soak in Listerine. And that kind of sanitizes it or whatever. Then you rinse it off, let it dry, and put it back on. And it's all minty smelling when you walk up to it.
Hey, that's not too bad.
Instead of smelling like spit and piss and sweat, you know?
Yeah, dragon breath, in other words, I guess.
Yeah.
That's like morning
Tour breath.
There you go, tour breath.
You walk up to it and you're just like, oh God, I don't even want to be near this thing.
That's kind of funky, you know, because everyone's got that funk going on.
Yeah.
Is there anywhere in the world that you haven't toured that you've always wanted to tour?
I've been pretty lucky there. And there's probably some places that if I knew they existed, I would like to go. But you know, the damn near 20 years in Nile, we covered a lot of territory. And I feel pretty good about that. My favorite place to tour still is the U.S. and Europe. Those are just, I don't know. I just like it. Australia is really awesome. I would love to go back there sometime if possible. New Zealand was killer. Been there a couple of times. Japan was awesome. It would be great to go to any of these places again. But right at the moment, we're just concentrating on doing some shows in the United States. A lot of places are looking like they're going to be closing up for another year. So, and if that's what they feel they need to do, I'm totally okay with that. It's a tough situation, man. Nobody ever saw this coming in a million years. That,
Nope.
And things are starting to open up. Like the shows that we're about to do, you know, it's going to be limited capacity, mandatory mask wearing, and all that. And you know, me and the guys in the band will also be extremely vigilant about, you know, the whole thing. And it would be, you know, if somebody gets me sick, whatever, I'll probably survive it. I've survived all kinds of stuff. If I have it, I don't want to get anybody else sick. You know what I mean? So that's the point. That's the thing you have to think about. It's like, well, maybe I have it. That's why I need to wear a mask. You know, you never know. You may. It's so easy to contract it, and you just don't know. So it's a spit catcher, basically, and you know, and people in general, in my opinion, they're pretty nasty.
There's a lot of
people are gross. They're all picking in their face and picking in their ass and don't wash their hands, and it's just disgusting. It's no wonder why people are getting sick.
Yeah, plus people want to shake hands a lot. You know?
Yeah.
I usually give a foot tap.
Yeah.
That tends
well,
to
there was a meme I saw.
toes.
It was funny. And actually, I was at work and we were training some guys that were going to be starting a new branch in our business. And he was like, well, you know, I'd shake your hand or whatever. And I was like, that's okay, dude. Finger guns are back. And I cannot claim that brilliance. That was from a David Hasselhoff meme that I saw.
I like it. That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, this pandemic definitely has put on a hold for a lot of people. For me personally, I met the woman of my dreams last year. So
that's great, man.
Here now. So thank you. By the way, Diego Sanchez from the band To Violently Vomit, formerly Disgorged, told me to tell you hello and keep shredding.
Oh, cool. Excellent.
Yeah. So I have to give Diego a shout out. What's up, Diego?
Yeah, what's up, man? Hell yeah.
Absolutely.
We will keep shredding forever.
Yep, he's telling me Narcotic Wasteland is dope. I said, yeah, from what I've heard, it's brutal as heck. I want to hear more of it. I'm looking forward
Excellent.
to it.
Cool, man. Yeah, I'm glad you dig it. We've been, we've had a few little obstacles come up during, even before the COVID thing happened. We've been kind of back and forth with some drummer things, which we have resolved now, and there'll be some sort of official announcement for what is going on in that department. It's good. That's what we need to know right now. But we would have already had an album out by now, but because of everything that happened, COVID or non-COVID wise, we just decided, the three of us, me and Chris and Ed, to just, hey, fuck it, man, just continue writing and see what happens, and we'll just plan for the future, and and we're just, everything's in lockdown, so let's just make some music, and so this time around, when we finally do get around to putting everything together for an album, we're going to have some, it's not just like every song is going to necessarily be on the album. We got some ones where it's like, well, if I feel like this is a little bit of a stronger song than this other one or whatever, so we'll have some options. But there's we got a lot of material, and it's not even necessarily that any of the songs are better or worse than each other, but it's going to end up being how they all work together on the album. So if a song doesn't make it, well, it might be good next time around or whatever, or maybe it'll get like whole new sections added to it. So it's weird, man. We've been playing one of the newer songs live already, called Morality and the Wasp, and it got some pretty cool responses, and we've been kind of bouncing mixes back and forth and stuff like that, and that was one of those songs that I came up with. I finished it in like a couple of days, and but sometimes it'll be like it takes months to get something together.
Absolutely.
And it still won't be as good as that one you wrote in a night. You know what I mean? It's like, there's something about it. I think I said this in another interview not too long ago, and it was something that Billy Gibbons from ZZ Top said about lightning in the bottle. It's like, when you got the ideas flowing, you need to really push yourself and go with it, because that's kind of like, and I know what he's saying, because that's kind of like your a natural purge out of your mind, your soul, whatever the hell you want to call it. And it's just all coming out and happening naturally, instead of like sitting in front of the computer screen with a bunch of different riff blocks or whatever and sliding all that stuff around. I mean, that's a good way to work too. You can find some interesting stuff, and you can try different ideas really quickly on the fly that way. But I've found the best way is just a notebook, pad, pen and paper, and me and my damn guitar. And that's just the way I've always done it. And that's just the way I've always done it. So it was a little bit, when I started getting more into recording with the computer and using an audio interface and all that stuff, it was a little bit of a learning curve for me. Not necessarily the software and learning my way around that, but just the workflow was a little different. Instead of just pressing record on my bullshit 8-track and going for it, you know what I mean? Like, this is a little bit more in depth. I wasn't used to having the screen there, never, like, everything that I'd written up to Delirium Tremens pretty much was done on that old 8-track. And so there was no computer screen there. It was just a little box that had some faders on it, and that was it. And so I still have that thing. It's in the box somewhere. So it took me a minute to kind of get used to using software, because I've done it for so long the same way, but it's fun. It's exciting. There's a lot of stuff that I can do with it and save myself a lot of time, and save myself the hassle of going down the wrong freaking road and recording a bunch of stuff and then being like, no, sir, I don't like it. You
Understandable,
know.
bro. Totally understandable. I wanted to ask you this question. What song by Nile did you find the most complicated to play and write?
There was a couple. Burning Pits of the Duat definitely comes to mind. Singing and playing that one was a major one. Um, that one, and also As He Creates, So He Destroys. That was we did that, I think, on one tour. And I think it might have been the tour that we did the 2 1 hour sets. It was called An Evening with Nile, and we did we played for 2 hours.
That's incredible.
We busted out all the stuff, all the new stuff. The first set was mostly kind of newer songs, and then the second set was like stuff from the first 4 albums, like anything from Nephron Ka to In Their Darkened Shrines. And that was pretty cool. And actually, we were good and warmed up by then, so that part of the set was easier. But yeah, that one was a tricky one, very much so. And yeah, out of the Nile songs, I would say that those two are probably the most tricky.
That's really cool. I like both of them myself because they're pretty easy to memorize some of the lyrics. And you can hear the enunciation in your voice compared to Carl, who growls so deep. It's like, is he even saying anything or is he burping?
Oh yeah, the undead zombie prehistoric jelly passed down from the reptiles type thing. Yeah. Yeah, it
Yeah,
sounds kind of undead. I mean,
yeah,
like, I think that's what he was kind of going for.
yeah. It's a bit
Um,
ominous,
and
that's for
that's
sure.
yeah, it's deep and bellowy and just kind of massive and but unarticulate, like on purpose,
That is
to give
funny.
it that slithery reptilian thing. Um, and then me, I was always just trying to make it sound very powerful and um, angry, warrior like, you know,
Yeah,
enunciated, like you said, like precise, exacting, like piercing armor with a freaking arrow type shit.
yeah. Kind of
Yeah.
like Cataclysm. Maurizio does that pretty well himself. Which reminds me
I
of,
wonder how those guys are doing, and I haven't talked to any of those guys in a minute.
well, I've actually seen that they're going to be doing a tour soon with Deicide.
Oh yeah, I think I just saw that poster.
Yep. I mean, I don't really listen to Deicide too much anymore. I'm out of the loop with them ever since I said, well, I just don't see myself listening to them anymore. Just kind
Yeah,
of grew out of it.
yeah. I mean, and that I'm guilty of the same thing, and with the exception of a few bands, I started kind of losing track of their releases, but not because I wasn't interested. It was because I was so busy kind of doing my own thing. You know what I mean? And but luckily, every now and then, one of these guys will come through town or somewhere close, and I can go check out a show.
Absolutely.
Um, and that kind of gets me familiar with the newer material. And then if they've got it available, then I might pick it up, off the merch table.
Speaking of new,
But yeah, I mean, and that's what happens, when you're a musician. You just get so busy doing your own thing that you don't have as much time as you'd like to check out other stuff. And after I rehearse our set list, which is that's probably about an hour and 30 minutes of music. The current Narcotic Wasteland set list that we would play, out live. So I do that every other day, mandatory, at least once every other day, just to stay up on chops and stay up on everything. And then during the weekend, I may do it both Saturday and Sunday, and maybe even more than once in a day. And between that and working on new music, I'm spent, man. I don't have more energy for music after all that. I want to go play some video games or maybe go get a drink. You
Totally
know,
understandable.
so
Yeah.
yeah, so I think it can be that way with a lot of people that we have a limited amount of energy for such carrying on, and we need to recharge and get up the next day and do it all again. You know,
Yeah,
but everybody there's only 24 hours in a freaking day. I wish sometimes that I didn't have to sleep.
well, we all
I,
need to recharge our batteries at some point.
Unfortunately, yes. I mean, can't we just eat? That'd be great.
Yeah, that would be nice, right?
But sleep is good. Sleep is good. I've been trying to get to bed a little earlier, but it doesn't work. I get excited about something, and I'm kind of a hyperactive person, and you know, then one day your body just kind of says, "Look, you need to sit down, sit in front of the TV like a normal jerk off for at least a couple of hours, man. Give yourself a couple of hours." And what will end up happening is I go sit on that couch and then I fall asleep because I'm just cooked. I'm done.
Yeah, it happens. Well,
Yeah.
back to you saying that it took you a couple of days and sometimes it takes a couple of months to race on. Jeff Lynne from Electric Light Orchestra put it that way in an interview that I seen with him. Said, yeah, he's totally right. I mean, it could take an hour, it could probably take a day, probably a month, maybe a year to get a whole song complete.
Yeah.
I mean, some people play simple stuff like myself. It's pretty easy, cheesy, but at the same time, it sounds great, you know?
Yeah, man. It's all about what you want to achieve and it doesn't have that feeling that you're going for. That's always important. It's great. I mean, Geddy Lee from Rush said it best, man. He said it's great to have good chops and to know all those notes and to be able to play really well. But at the end of the day, it's about the feel.
Absolutely.
And I like to have a little bit of both. I like to be able to play decent, and maybe you can help me with this because I've always been a little confused about this. Um, I've heard Nile and I've heard Narcotic Wasteland and a few other bands that I didn't really necessarily agree with called technical death metal or tech death.
Okay.
In order to be a tech death band, is the only ingredient you need in order to have that label stuck on you is you have to be able to play good to play it? Is that what that means? That you have a higher level or need a higher level of technical skill to play it? Or is there something a little bit different? Because for me, the stuff never felt necessarily technical. I mean, it may have some sections to it that were had some chops going on, but for the most part, it was about the entire picture, like the whole vision of what the song was trying to, do. Where is it taking you? What road is it taking you down?
Well, to answer that question, I would look at it this way. If you have the skills to do it, like sweeping arpeggios, which I'm still trying to master, that takes a long time for some people. But for some people, they can just play like it's butter. So I guess it's basically if you got the talent within you, then that's what makes you have that type of, uh, I guess you could call it tricks and also ideas, you know?
Oh yes, all the licks, all the tricks.
All that stuff, all that happy
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't use arpeggios a lot. I mean, I've used them, but like not like a whole hell of a lot. Like there's guys out there that it's like a big integral part of their style, and they're doing tapping and along with it, and they have like 20 strings on their guitar, and that's cool. I mean, it's not really my thing personally. I kind of view myself as just an old thrasher punk, you know. 6 strings is all I need, and and I just go for it. And I like, while I like intricate solo work and stuff like that, I'm really more about playing riffs, and it's what I spend most of my time doing. I warm up on licks, you know what I mean? I'll get my fingers moving on all the licks and everything, but after that, it's just time to play some riffs.
Absolutely. Are there any bands that you don't listen to?
Oh, I'm sure. I mean, there's probably a lot of bands that I don't even know who they are. I try to be pretty open minded about listening to new things or trying out different stuff, but I have to go with my heart, and my heart has always been in rock and roll, heavy metal, thrash metal, death metal, and punk. I mean, that's probably the biggest um, influences for me musically. So I just kind of go with what I like, and it just so happens to be these things.
Mhm.
I like musical scores a lot, like movie scores and stuff too. I think some of that has definitely made its way into some of the stuff that I've put down on tape. Um, and that's pretty much it. There's some classical stuff that I like, but for the most part, I've just been listening to a lot of old classic rock lately, and my favorite death metal artists, and some good old thrash metal and some good old punk, you know,
Speaking of punk, I
stuff
was
like.
listening to some last night. Bad Brains, I'm sure you remember them, and Bad Religion.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. I've been jamming on and off over the past decade or so. I've just been in the circle jerks kind of mood.
I remember them. They're pretty cool.
Oh, I love circle jerks, man. And them, and I was actually getting in. I was actually jamming some Fugazi again there for a minute.
I haven't heard
Uh,
that name in a while, Fugazi.
oh yeah.
My brother still has an old Fugazi poster when they played at SUNY Binghamton. And it's a black and white poster. It's still hanging on his wall. It's in the void. That's what he likes to call his room. But sorry, bro, Wes, I had to give you a shout out too.
Hell yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, dude. Well, I really can't think of much else, Dallas. You have any last words for Underground Noise?
I would just say, for anybody listening to this, just thanks very much for being a music enthusiast, whether it be metal or rock or even country, if that's what you're into. Thank you for your continued support uh, in any kind of music, really. I'm sure all the artists out there really appreciate that. I know that I definitely do when I see, comments that are, very uplifting, and I feel like I've really connected with someone. That's just and just thank everybody, and thank you, and we'll be out there soon, man. We got some shows coming up. There'll be some announcements of that coming up soon, and hell yeah, stay metal.
Awesome, Dallas. Thanks again for your time.
Thank you,
You're welcome.
sir.
You are
Stay in
welcome.
touch, brother.
Of course. I definitely will.
Hell yeah, man.